I think China is a different country defined by World Bank, WTO, all these international organizations. It's not China self-claim we are a developing country. So maybe today's world changes so rapidly. It's in a great transformation. The old criteria or the standard maybe not attached to so many diverse world. So we need reform. So it's but not unilaterally to change, or you are not a developing country or not. China is very. When I visited Germany, the concept of China is superpower. I said China is a developing country. I said, why not comprise together that China is a super developing country?
So it's a super developing country. So does that mean you agree it's no longer appropriate just to call China a developing country and be treated the same as all the other developing countries that are?
As I said, it's a super developing country. It's not a normal. So developing country, there are three kinds of the developing country. First, the less developing country, right? It's a very poor country like Afghanistan, Nepal. This. Second is traditionally developing country. But the third criteria is so-called emerging countries like India and China. So China is the third emerging but still developing country.
What does that mean then for what trade rules should apply to China, if you're putting it in that category?
Okay, traditionally WTO rules, the developing country, the development is the top priority for the nation, right? So they can have some subsidies, have the industrial policies, have the tax or the requirement. But even though, I think China, as we understand, that our responsibilities go beyond the traditional developing country, even emerging economy. So our responsibility in cut CO2 emission, the tax, tariff, all this, I think, reach similar level of the development country.
What does that mean in practicality? Because what Australia and the US are saying is the way China is acting right now in a trade sense is not fair compared to its status. Do you disagree with that?
Well, everything we according to the WTO rules, I think. If you think that the WTO rules are not good for you, we should work together to reform the WTO, as we did actually, or in doing with the European Union. They have the Vice Minister group to reform the WTO. But so far, the WTO is empty running because of the United States not appointed the judge. So it's dead. So we need to keep it alive to reform. I think this is also in the interest of the Australia. Your Prime Minister, your politicians always said that the WTO-centric trade organization is good. It's a multilateral system is good for everybody because Australia as China also very highly depend on their trade. So I think that our both common ground in this regard.
One of the key complaints is about intellectual property theft, which doesn't go within WTO rules, and it's considered widespread within China for a long time and hasn't changed for a long time. What's your response to that?
Firstly, we need to reform WTO because the WTO is covered not so many areas, as you mentioned, IPR or even investment, also the e-commerce, AI. This is a new phenomenon that they don't cover it. So we need to put it together. It's like the China and the European Union also negotiated with the bilateral investment treaty, but the European Union now changed as a CIA, Comprehensive Investment Agreement, is to put also investment IPR into the negotiation. Yes, we are doing so. So far, we make I think substitutes of the progress. Maybe next year we can reach the deal. I think we can also do China and Australia. We should update our FTA. And even China, United States also negotiated a bilateral investment treaty. So if you claim this WTO rules are not good, we should reform the WTO per se. And then...
Sorry, so in terms of updating an agreement, that would have a specific clause around intellectual property, and China would be happy to have that with Australia? Okay,
IPR is good for China because I think China is changing from made in China world factory to innovation in China, so world laboratory. So definitely it's in China's interest to protect the IPR, not just the Chinese companies, but as well as the international companies in China. So we highly participate with the negotiation with IPR with Australian
The other aspect of this, people would say that, well, why do you need rules just to get Chinese companies to stop stealing intellectual property over so long? There's been the Motorola case, even Oreo cream, US company software for many years has been stolen. Why do you need
how can you use a steal or stolen, that kind of concept? Okay, China's market is very huge, very dynamic. So many foreign companies want to make money in China. So So they make a deal with Chinese government or local government or companies about the market access, and then they give the the IPR or technology transfer to China, and China open the market. This is to make the deal that you agree. Otherwise, why you benefit a lot from the Chinese market?
That's one aspect.
It's not no one enforce you to do so.
There has been theft in some of those cases. There has been, in terms of
this is according to the contract. This is to make a deal. It's not no one's theft.
But
so if you violate this, it's violate the spirit of the contract.
Over the years, before there are even companies getting into China, we're talking from.
We understand that you are very sensitive because the Chinese technology catch up with you, and even the United States, like 5G, okay? So global value chain, China catch up with. You think about this game is unfair, so want to change the game, and then bash China as the IPR steering of the developing country as well. So this we understand. So the key issue is whether China always put in the global value chain not cross the middle. I think it's China should leave the party. Now China should contribute to our improve our human rights. So innovation, IPR, of course, it's China's interest.
Can I ask as well, the China cyber attacks on various Australian institutions, what does that say about China's
why you
approach
say
to
it's a
Australia?
it's a China cyber attack?
Well, do you say China was not responsible for the cyber attack on the Australian parliamentary email system, major Australian political parties, on the Australian National University, the Bureau of Meteorology?
Okay. You attacked from abroad your parliament cyber system. But do you sure that it's from China?
Was it
or
from
maybe
China?
It's from
Are you saying
the
it wasn't
address
from China?
You say it's from China.
That's the belief.
Do you have the evidence to show that it's from China or done by Chinese government or done by Chinese citizens or the hackers? Maybe live in China.
Is there a
not
real
necessarily
difference between the Chinese citizen in many cases and the government, though? Often this is government sanctioned, is it not?
Do you have the evidence to show this is the Chinese government?
Are you saying
sponsor?
it wasn't?
I mean, you claim this is China from China. So you should provide the evidence.
As the government,
that
I don't have access to that.
Yes. So
I don't have the evidence, but are you saying it wasn't China?
I mean, what from China is not done by Chinese government or done by the Chinese.
Okay, so
because the hacker attack is very autonomous. It's very complex. Because China has so many people. If even not Chinese live in China attack the parliament, can you identify this is China's behavior or it's from China? So from China is done by China or Chinese government? This is a different
okay. Are you saying it wasn't connected in any way to the Chinese government then or the Chinese Communist Party?
Okay, if you think it's done by Chinese government, you should provide the the evidence to show this. But so far you didn't provide. So I don't think this is
the approach of the Australian government.
The key question is like that. The key question is
of the Australian government has been not to actually name a country. Perhaps there's a consciousness that
why you didn't name the
is
country?
important.
Why you didn't name the country? Why you didn't show the evidence?
Me personally or the government?
Your government. If you claim it's from China, you should provide the evidence to show that it's Chinese government behavior, or it's Chinese citizen behavior, or somebody live in China, or from the Chinese address.
China's reaction to that China wouldn't be happy.
The question is about that. Why China need invade your cyber system in parliament? Why? What the purpose? You think about
to perhaps get political influence. To perhaps
why we need political influence? You
don't want China doesn't seek any influence in Australia.
Our
Isn't
influence,
that the whole part of the United Front to get influence in foreign countries, including Australia?
United Front. That's the many countries did. I think India, Israel use the diaspora.
Okay,
this is
sure.
very important.
We're talking about China, though. You're saying, why would we want influence? Is this not a stated part within the Communist Party to get influence in other countries? That's what China wants, isn't it?
Our relations, economic linkage is very strong, right? So our companies invest here, your companies invest in China, then maybe lobby, that's very normal. When the US did this, you didn't blame this attack from the US government or something. But why something, when the Chinese companies lobby your government or parliament, you think about it's attacked by the Chinese Communist Party?
This is not
everything
just a lobby,
identified by the Chinese government or everything identified by the Chinese Communist Party.
I'm talking about a cyber attack, not just
cyber attack, as I said, you didn't have the evidence. So how can you show this is a Chinese government behavior? There's no need for Chinese government to attack you. I said.
Well, again, it would be about
you say they want to
influence
you. Why China want to influence your
but
parliament?
it's a stated desire of the Chinese Communist Party to get influence abroad.
Firstly, the Chinese foreign policy is not interfere domestic affairs. So this is our principle. We kept a long time, 70 years. Why we should change this principle today? And why we should interfere in your domestic affairs? So you always from imagination. Everything you because bash the Communist Party, everything because of the Chinese government. If this is something similar happened to from the United States, from Japan, I don't think you say this is a government behavior.
There's no indication from anyone that
okay.
the United States or Japan
to China
is
as well.
hacking Australia's parliamentary system.
If the address from China not necessarily means this the Chinese people do that or Chinese government do that. Because the internet is very complex, as I mentioned to you. It's autonomy.
Okay. You did mention earlier about human rights. One video emerging recently appears to show dozens of Uyghurs with their heads apparently freshly shaved, blindfolded, hands tied behind their back, and part of what's called a mass transfer. What would be the justification for treating people this way in a mass transfer?
You used to live in the 19th century. This is the 21st century. How can think this is happening? Had to be kind of, but can you imagine this? So you just okay, from the videos, something videos to match your expectation, and then show this. Okay,
it's not my expectation. I'm just it's a video that's out there.
Firstly, can you show the evidence that the video is not a fake news?
Well, so far the security experts believe it was taken from April
Security
2018.
always make troubles, and the intelligence, I don't know why someone.
So you're saying this has been faked?
Of course.
And what evidence do you have of that?
What does it mean? Many videos, including several years ago, they also used the Nepal's policemen to punish the residents and show this is the Chinese in Tibet. What happened in Tibet? Because the foreigners cannot make a difference between the Nepalese and the Chinese. And again, this, I don't know. Even my students or some make a joke, attack my my WeChat or web blog. So, this is the AI era. It's very easy to put you, if I want to put you in that kind of similar environment and say something like that. And the ordinary people don't have technology
of people.
to show the differences.
One person appearing in a video.
Why Chinese government needed to do that and cut the people's head? Do you think that if you this and the United Nations will send it definitely?
Well, I don't go into why. I'm just. So are you saying?
If you have, will be normal to understand.
This is a video that. People,
everything because you think about China.
Professor, this is a
everything
video
because you can think about the Communist Party do everything very horrible. Even you use some parliament members even use Nazi to identify China. What is the meaning for that? Even you use the your former premier's so-called stand-up, stood-up from China. So what do you think of that? You should understand Communist Party. You should understand China better. You should understand Xinjiang. You would never visit and just from the videos to say something about it. This is no equal communication.
Well, the reason I asked about the video is
because as I said, when China was invaded by Japan, imperialist, colonialist, this is a stand-up meme. But you say Australia will stand up from China. China never invaded you. You invaded China. You know 100 years ago. There are 8, but 1 Australia in the Commonwealth of UK together, the troops to invade Beijing. China never invaded you, but you invaded in history. But why we need to do this?
Can I just ask about the video again, Professor?
Okay.
This was a video, as I said, that separate security experts say that appears to have come from this region in 2018. Are you saying it's fake?
Who said that? Can you provide the evidence that you said somebody, expert, intelligence guy said? I can also say, intelligence guys said, you invade
the Australian Strategic Policy Institute, one of the experts.
If you need, I can ask my student to do the similar video to you.
Okay, I'd be interested to see if it could look as realistic. But you're saying it's...
You want to bash our relation, bash China. This is very easy in a high technology era in doing so.
Okay, but you're just saying it's fake because... Do you have any evidence of that, or you just
because
don't believe it? Because it's possible to be fake, therefore it is.
I visited Xinjiang many times because I do the burial studies. I can talk the Uyghur. I can talk.
What would you say about the Uyghurs and their plight in China?
I didn't say that the Chinese government cut the heads of the Uyghurs. In the past 3 years, no any terror attack in Xinjiang. These are historic achievements to stabilize the situation.
So the end justifies the means in that regard?
We want to talk about the video again, okay?
I'm not saying the video, I'm saying generally because there's been a lot of
your translation
as re-education camps, for example.
This is not a camp, firstly. Don't use this concept. You use this many concepts. It's very arrogant to China. So-called Communist Party of the camp. This is the occasional training school. It's provided the jobs for the young guys who don't have the job.
And everyone going there can come and leave whenever they like?
Okay. This is, okay, United Nations Human Rights Commission. Australia sponsored a deal to bash China over this video or tag case. But all the Muslim world, they support China, say this is a good case to show how to train the layoffs without jobs to make troubles. This is a common challenge to all the Muslim countries. But they support, but you are blamed.
Well, you're saying Australia's bashing China. The reason Australia has raised this is because there are plenty of people that have come forward and said that they've been forced to go there. They've had parents forced to go there as well. That this wasn't just optional training. It was described as a re-education camp by people with either first-hand or being told about first-hand experience there.
You just use this video to...
I'm not talking about the video, I'm talking about
Australian innocent, because generally Australians don't understand China. They never visit Uyghur. They very care about the human rights issue. The Xinjiang issue is very historic culturally. It's not just human rights or cultural diversity, because you are a migrant country. You are very young. You care about the human rights. We understand, we respect you. But somebody behind, they use this video to damage our relations, to damage the Chinese reputation. Look what happened in South Korea. I taught 1 year at Yonsei at Seoul. And then when South Korea want to have the very good relations, improve the relation with China, and then even with the former president, Pia Ching-hui, attending the Second World War ending ceremony, 60 years. And then SART, missile defense system, happened. And then she was removed. And many things happened. You know what I'm saying? Because it's so close to China. Now you should want to improve relations with China. You want to do something. Somebody will be behind you because you are the alliance. You are not independent in this regard. It's security.
Can I ask you finally,
be influenced,
Professor,
or used by somebody.
How do you see Australia-China relations right now?
I think we should improve, because Australians, these days I visit, even some scholars talk about that during the Second War period. They're talking about the Second War is very easy. I told you, when I visit South Korea, when I visit Poland, Czech Republic, the Cold War between the US and the Soviet Union, maybe it's Cold War, but so the frontiers for the mid-power, so a small country, there's a hot war. The millions of people died. So it's very dangerous to talk about the so-called Second Cold War, when Stephen Bannon and many other US politicians said, if there's a war between United States and China, whether over South China or whatever, you're the frontier. You first should sacrifice for that.
Australia.
Of course. It's the Americans said that. It's not me said that, okay? So be very careful not to use the Cold War, not to make troubles with China's relations. Nothing good for you. If you're responsible for the Australians' long-term interests of the safety and the peace and the development of the people, you should very sensitive to handle our relations, not make troubles between China and the US or between China and Australia. Be the bridge to connect each other, to bridge the gaps. This is your hope. This is your responsibility. Not use this video bash China and make people hate China and then totally on the peak side.
Professor Wang, it's been an interesting discussion. Thanks for your time today.
Thank you. If there is a war, whether Cold War or hot war, you are first sacrifice for this war. So be cautious to not use Cold War. So Australians' jobs is not make trouble between each other or tech side. You should be very sensitive to handle this issue. It's like the Premier Lee Kuan Yew, Singapore former leader. They're very clever to handle the relations between the East and the West, the United States and China. So benefit both from the China, rise of China, also benefited from the US protection. So what I recommend, Australians visit more museums in the North Czech Republic, Poland, even Serbia, and many, even Russia, to view what's the Cold War and the frontiers of a first sacrifice for this. Should be pay high attention to that. Because the Cold War for you'll not sacrifice so much, because the Cold War, the main battlefield is in Europe. What's in Europe, right? So you don't know what's the meaning of the Cold War.
So you're suggesting if there was to be a second Cold War, it could be far worse than what people think.
Of course.
And you're suggesting Australia would be the first to be sacrificed. Sacrificed by who?
Whatever. Maybe US will betray you. Not necessarily protect you. US have so many allies. If they think about it, they cannot win or they cannot something like that, they're easily to sacrifice you. Not necessarily. You are not a natural. You are, okay, maybe you always show your loyalty to the US, but the US, they have the global consideration. In the history, they sacrificed many alliances.